Right triangle trig, right? The magical acronym that is SOHCAHTOA. That helps us get through all this stuff. Okay, and then we talked about 30, 60, 90, 45, 45, 90 triangles, and then the word problems, all that stuff's in this section. So for the first one, okay, it says find the cosine of theta, and I set up a triangle. Realize that you can get this information in a different way. You would have the same exact type of setup if I had given you that the tangent of theta is 1 over 3 and then asked you to find the cosine. In that case, I would have drawn the triangle. I would have put the opposite side where it's 1, the adjacent side where it's 3, okay? And in order to find the cosine, I still have to find the missing side, right? So how do I find the missing side of this triangle?
Pythagorean's theorem.
Good. So 1 squared plus 3 squared equals c squared. 1 plus 9 equals c squared. C squared equals 10, and c equals the square root of 10. So all of these types of questions are going to be kept exact. You're not going to round this, okay? Once I get that, then I know cosine is adjacent, which is 3, over the hypotenuse, which is square root 10. That gets rationalized by multiplying the numerator and the denominator by the square root of 10, and I get 3 square root 10 over 10. And again, that's going to be left that way so that it's exact. This is a fill in the blank type of question on the quiz, which means my answer is going to be written as 3 SQRT for square root 10 divided by 10. So as you complete your quiz review, you want to start to think, how could I type this kind of question out? That's how it's going to happen. All of the pi's are going to be pi instead of actually the symbol pi. There's no equation editor. There's no upload of a picture for the answers. They're all going to be fill in the blank, so be careful. All right, number 2 says find the cotangent of 45 degrees. So I did tell you that at some point you're going to have the option to pick between unit circle and right triangle. On that quiz, you can use either one. Since we're talking about right triangles, I'm going to use the right triangle one here. So remember that if it's on my unit circle, that the 90 triangle would be 1, 1, and root 2. Cotangent is going to be adjacent over opposite, so it doesn't matter which 45 I pick. Adjacent and opposite are both 1s. So the cotangent of 45 degrees is just 1. If it was square root 3, I'd write SQRT3. If it was square root 3 over 3, I'd write SQRT3 divided by 3. So think about it that way. And again, if you want to use your unit circle for the quiz, that's fine too. You don't have to use that right triangle. Number 3 says find the height of the tree if the length of the shadow is 50 feet when the sun is at a 30-degree angle. So this is actually a special right triangle because it's a 30, 60, 90 triangle. You can do this without a calculator, but your word problems, you're going to want to round to the nearest tenth. So if it had said, I'll show you. If it had said round to nearest tenth, then I would know to use the calculator, okay, instead of my 30, 60, 90 triangle, but this can be done both ways. So in my triangle that's set up for me, again, you're not going to have a picture on your quiz, so get used to drawing them out. This says find the height of the tree. So the height's here. My angle degree is 30. The 50's here. That would be opposite over adjacent, which is tangent. Tangent of 30 degrees equals h over 50. And then I would multiply both sides by 50. And 50 times the tangent of 30 degrees in my calculator gives me that the height, 50, 10, 30. Again, making sure I'm in radians. H would equal 28, around to the nearest tenth, so 28.9 feet. So on the quiz, you don't need the unit, okay? It's going to ask you just to give the numeric part of that. And if this was just, like, think about the fact that if this was where it had said kept my answer exact, the tangent of 30 degrees is root 3 over 3, and the answer would have been 50 root 3 over 3, which is the same thing. 50 times the square root of 3 divided by 3 is the same answer, 28.9, okay? But if it had said to be kept exact, you can do it because it's a 30, 60, 90 triangle. So keep that in mind. Yeah.
I'm so confused on when to use radians and when to use degrees.
So if you have that little degree symbol on your angle, then it's going to be in degrees. If you don't see it, that's when you use radians. So usually it has pi in its answer, but not necessarily all the time. Like, for example, if I had just asked you to find the tangent of pi over 7, obviously that would be in radians. Also, if I had asked you to find the tangent of 2.3, that would also be in radians. If it doesn't have the little degree symbol there, it's in radians.
Okay. Alright, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, any questions on the homework from 4.3? I thought I had posted the solutions, and I just realized in that first class period I did not, so I need to work them through, and I will post them. But does anybody know that they got stuck on something they need me to work out? All right, so 5 says Jack is standing on top of a cliff that's 305 feet above a lake. The measurement of the angle of depression to a boat on the lake is 42 degrees. How far is the boat from Jack? So you've got a cliff, right? Cliff. And then you've got Jack standing on top of the cliff. So we're saying that this cliff is 305 feet. Sometimes word problems give you the height of the person standing on top of it, so you want to add that to it. Sometimes they don't like this one, and we just consider it to be close enough to that 305 feet, okay, that we don't worry about it. Normally, if it said like Jack, who is 5 feet tall, now I would take that 5 feet and I'd add it to the top of the 305. So it says angle of depression, which means from eye level down to whatever this boat is that's floating on the lake, is 42 degrees. So remember, depression is from horizontal down. How far is the boat from Jack? So a lot of people put the X here. That would be how far the boat is from the base of the cliff. This is actually the distance from the boat to Jack, which is here. So you have two choices. Either take this as the complement to 42, which would be 48 degrees, and then use the bottom triangle like this to set up a trig function. Or you can use this top triangle to set up your trig function by putting 305 on the other side. That would be the same. So if I use the 42, then it would be the tangent of 42 equals 305 over x. Nope, sorry, it wouldn't be tangent. It would be opposite over the hypotenuse, so it would be sine of 42 equals 305 over x. If I use the 48, then I'm doing the cosine of 48 equals the adjacent side, which is 305, over the x, which is the hypotenuse. So it doesn't matter which of those you use, you should get the same answer. Remember, if the number's in the top, I take that number and I divide it by the trig function. So 305 divided by the sine of 42, and that's degrees, so my calculator has to be in degrees, and my x is 455.8 feet. And I'd get the same thing by 305 divided by the cosine of 48, 455.8 feet, okay? And again, it didn't tell you what to round to on the quiz. I was really specific, so pay attention to that. Any other questions from the homework for 4.3? So 7 says 2 legs of a right triangle have lengths 16 and 12. The measure of the larger acute angle. So this obviously is my right triangle, right? The legs are the non-hypotenuse. The other one's called the hypotenuse. And the larger of the acute angles, so I'm either looking for this angle and this angle. And if you remember, hopefully, from geometry, that the smaller the side, the smaller the angle opposite it. So if I'm comparing 12 and 16 here, the angle opposite 12 is going to be smaller than the angle opposite 16. So the larger of the acute angles is actually, let's call this angle A, is angle A that we're looking for. So 16 is opposite, 12 is adjacent. I'm going to say the tangent of angle A equals 16 over 12. And then remember, when you're trying to find the actual angle, you use the -1 buttons. So tangent -1 of 12 divided by 16 tomorrow. Your quiz, which is Thursday, is covering 4.1 to 4.3. It will be on lockdown, okay? So you'll need to log on your second device Thursday morning or whenever I see you guys, because it will be later. You'll have to have a calculator that has degrees and radians. So I'm talking scientific or graphing. It doesn't matter which one. For this one anyways, okay? In 4.1, remember we talked about how to go from degrees to radians and vice versa. You'll need to know how to do that. We talked about coterminal angles. We talked about complements and supplements. We talked about arc length. Which is that SOAR formula, making sure that theta is in radians. So if I'm going to add this on, right, so from degrees to radians, we do theta times pi over 180. To go radians to degrees, we do theta times 180 over pi. And remember, it doesn't have to have pi in it to be in radians. It just doesn't have the degree symbol. For coterminal, if it's in degrees, we take our theta and add and subtract 360 to it. If it's in radians, we take our theta and add and subtract 2 pi from it. If I ask you for a positive coterminal, it has to be positive. If I ask you for a negative, it has to be negative. So sometimes that means adding or subtracting it one more time. Complement and supplement. The complement is 90 minus theta or pi over 2 minus theta. And the supplement is 180 minus theta or pi minus theta. Keep in mind that if it's negative, it doesn't work, right? So I can't have, there's no complement for something that has 100 degrees. Okay, and then arc length, remember theta has to be in radians. So if I give it to you in degrees, you got to convert it first. And then multiply it times the radius. Okay, then came 4-2, which was our unit circle. So normally I'd be telling you how to fill this in again, okay? But obviously you can just use your unit circle as part of your notes. Make sure you're familiar with it enough that you're not losing time trying to find things though. Definitely know your quadrant angles. Definitely know that the even, so if it's 0, pi, 2 pi. Remember the even whole numbers are on the right and the odd whole numbers are on the left. Pi over 2 at the top and 3 pi over 2 at the bottom. The sine is the y, the cosine is the x, the tangent is the y over x. But the over 6s were root 3 over 2 and 1/2. The over 4s, root 2 over 2 and root 2 over 2. The over 3s, 1/2 root 3 over 2. Tangents for those, over 6 is root 3 over 3. Over 4 is 1, and over 3 is root 3. And then obviously the signs get changed as I move around my unit circle. Questions so far? Okay, then came 4-3, which was the right triangle trig. So this is our SOHCAHTOA. This is our 30, 60, 90 triangles and our 45, 45, 90 triangles. So in like general 30, 60, 90 and 45, 45, 90, 30, 60. Opposite the 30 is A, opposite the 60 is A root 3, and opposite the 90 is 2A. And 45, 45, opposite the 45s are A's, and opposite the 90 is A root 2. Now a unit circle triangle, which means that the radius is 1, this 30, 60, 90, this is 1, root 3, and 2, and the 45, 45 is 1, 1, root 2. So those are two different things. If I don't give you the angles, I'm sorry, if you're not saying it's a unit circle, then that relationship is that A root 3, 2A, or A root 2. If it's in the unit circle, you're pulling that angle out of a unit circle, that's when you've got the 1 root 3 and 2, and then 1, 1, and root 2. So remember, you can use these triangles to find the trig functions of special angles, okay? Or you can use your unit circle angles. It's completely up to you which one you choose to use there. Just realize if there was something like the first question in the warm-up where the ratio that they give you is not a unit circle ratio, then you have to use the right triangles. Questions? Oh, this, let me go back over to degree, minute, second notation. Was in section 1. Degree, minute, second notation. So if I asked you to find the sine of 31 degrees, 4 minutes, and 15 seconds, you need to know how to do that too, okay? You obviously have to have it in the mode. Make sure you're comfortable going back and forth with those. Make sure that whichever calculator you plan to use, you know where those buttons are, so that you don't have to go the long way around to figure that out. So this would be 0.5161. And pay attention, because sometimes it's going to say round to the nearest tenth, and sometimes it's going to say round to the 4 decimal places. So you just got to make sure that you're really, really careful with that stuff. I think that's it. Let me look. Oh, cofunctions. Okay, so remember that with the cofunctions, sine goes with cosine, tangent goes with cotangent, and secant goes with cosecant, and it goes with the complement. So the sine of 40 is going to equal the cosine of 50. The tangent of 35 is going to equal the cotangent of 55. The secant of 15 is going to equal the cosecant of 65. So I'll give you the function and the angle. You have to give me the cofunction and the complement. And then you're going to be solving right triangles and solving word problems like we did at the end of 4-3. Questions for me? Again, calculators needed. Pay attention to your mode, because you're going to have to switch it back and forth. And you can use notes. All right. Find the sine of pi over, let's say, 9. Find the cofunction of that. It would be the cosine of pi over 9's complement. So I would do pi over 2 minus pi over 9. I'd multiply both of these. So this would be times 2. This would be 2 pi over 18. This would be times 9. 9 pi over 18. And then 9 pi over 18 minus 2 pi would be 7 pi over 18. Okay, think about how you'd write that in on a short answer. It would be cosine 7 pi would be pi divided by 18, just like that. Obviously, you need a calculator. You can either have scientific or graphing for this quiz, and make sure you're paying attention to your mode. If it's in degrees, it needs to be in degrees. All the word problems are in degrees. That's going to have to be in degrees. But if I ask you to find the sine or the cosine or the secant or the cosecant of a function and it's in radians, you got to make sure that you switch your calculator to radians. Questions for me as far as expectations go on the quiz? Actually, you know what? I'm going to give everybody an opportunity to try to do it without me. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes and 3 minutes. Everybody jump to 16. Try to do it without me, and then I'll jump on it. That way nobody like gets this false sense of hope that they know what they're doing because I already said how to do it. So I'll wait 2.5 minutes. Everybody go straight to 16 and start there. All right, so it says, Lindsay, remember I said that sometimes they include their height. This is one of those opportunities when they include their height. Lindsay, who is 5 feet 6 inches tall, she's 5 feet 6 inches tall, okay, is standing on top of a building that's 12.5 feet tall. The angle of depression from Lindsay to Pete is 79 degrees. So obviously Pete's over here. Find the distance from Pete to the base of the building, which would be here. So this is that time that you have to take her height and add it on. Because the bottom part is 12.5, I have to convert the 5 feet 6 inches into a decimal, right? So that is not 5.6. 6 inches goes over 12 inches, and this would be 5.5 feet. So add these together, and I get 18 feet. So now I've got a triangle that looks like this. This is 18 feet. The angle up here, the 79 would be at the top, and the X is what we're looking for down here. So I can either take this 79, subtract it from 90 to get 11 degrees on the inside, or I can flip my triangle over here, put 18 here, and put my X there, okay? Depending on which one you use. So if I use the 11, X is opposite, 18 is adjacent, so it's the tangent of 11 equals X over 18. If I use the top triangle, then I would say the tangent of 79 equals 18 over X. So you would reverse it. And because these are co-functions, right, this should make it the same thing. 18 tangent 11 would be 3.5, nearest tenth of a foot. Yeah, 3.5 feet, not meters, 3.5 feet. Okay, any questions before I send you on your way? Yeah.
So on the sheet number 7, blank.
Okay, I'll go back and check that too.